Welcome once again to educator.com, and in this lesson we will be going over the steps to understand process and the phases of cause and effect. Here's an example of a process. For the first step, measure out 5 tablespoons of coffee grounds. Put them in the bottom of the pot. Next, boil 14 ounces of water and wait to pour it into the pot. For the next step, wait 2 minutes. This will cause the coffee to mix with the water. For the last step, press down on the press. Pour out coffee and enjoy. That was an example of a process. I explained the steps of how to do something. And process organization works like this. First off, you might be explaining how to do something, like make coffee. Or maybe you want to explain how something works. So maybe a car engine or a computer or something else is a system or a machine, and we want to explain how it works. Or maybe we're looking outside and we see a mountain, or maybe we look outside and we see a great beautiful building, and we're going to explain how something, natural or unnatural, was made. For your details, you're normally going to talk about one step or one phase per paragraph, and I'll be honest with you, process normally doesn't fit into just 1, 2, 3. Probably going to have longer than 3 paragraphs. Remember, if you have more than 3 paragraphs, you can always combine paragraphs or combined ideas, look for steps that are similar, or find ways to make sure that the paragraph doesn't get more than 6, maybe 7 at the most. Here's an example of a process essay, and as usual, I'll be highlighting the key words. Have you ever wanted to cook the best hamburger patty ever? There are simple steps to learning how. Begin with ground beef. Ensure that there is no pink slime. Let it thaw in a bowl. Next, chop up bell peppers and a little bit of garlic. Make sure that they are as small as possible. In the next phase, mix the bell pepper with the beef and some hot sauce. Finally, divide the mixture into patties. Grill them over a barbecue and serve when they're nice and hot. Here's another process essay. Killing tiny mosquitoes also killed large birds. It has to do with the process of tiny amounts of poison, DDT, in the food chain. First, let's start with plants. If we spray DDT on plants, the amount is harmless. However, small animals like mice eat plants. This causes a slightly larger amount of DDT to build up in the mice. In the next phase, snakes begin to eat the mice. The DDT doesn't go away, but gets inside the snake. The amount of DDT grows. Finally, an unsuspecting predatory bird eats the snakes. After a while, there is enough DDT to kill the bird. So, what are some examples of a process? Well, first, second, third. Our listing transition words are pretty universal. We use them all the time. Processes always involve time too, though, so any time transition could also be a process transition. Any word that implies a sequence or a set of events, start, finish, begin, end, you'll find those too. But the most important and distinctive process keywords are these ones, step and phase. If you see step and phase repeated over and over in an essay, you know that it's a process transition. And if you want to write a process, use step and phase, and that'll help the reader understand that you're using process. Cause and effect. Now, cause and effect is a little bit more difficult than you might think to understand, and that's because, well, some things are very easy to see the causes of, and some things are very complicated. Some things are very concrete, some things are very abstract, but I'm going to go over this slowly, and we'll hopefully understand how cause and effect works when you're writing. When we get to critical thinking, we're going to be spending a lot of time on cause and effect. But here are some examples of cause and effect sentences. When you boil water, it causes steam. When you study hard, the result is a good grade. One factor in the success of Facebook are video games. Getting into a good college motivates me to study. So, one of the things that will help you understand cause and effect is, first off, literally anything you think of can be thought of as an effect. And there's not normally just one kind of cause that goes into making something or causing something that you see or you touch or you feel or you even think about. There could be as many as 4. And so think about a house for a moment. Think about maybe the house you live in, or think about the house you want to live in. What caused that house? Well, one thing that caused that house is the builder's plan. Somebody made a blueprint, they wrote it out, and they said, this is a plan for the house. That was part of the cause. Also, I bet that that house has lots of wood, it has nails, and even pipes. Probably a lot of other stuff too. But I bet it had all that material, was delivered to the site where the house was built, but it didn't just sit there and become a house all by itself. I bet, number 3 here, a lot of people were working around the clock to build that house. And then, well, why did we want a house in the first place? Well, somebody wanted to live there. So, let's think about these 4 types of questions that we can ask, and we can call them cause questions. First off, what idea came first? In the case of the house, it was the builder's plan. He had an idea. Also, what kind of touchable stuff was that house made out of? That's kind of like our material question. And also, we got a how question. The stuff didn't just become the house. Somebody moved that stuff around and put it together. And that's another question that we can ask. How did the stuff become the house? Also, we have this question kind of about purposes. I want a good grade. That is why I study. Why was the house built? Well, because somebody wanted to live there. Why questions can be thought of as causes too. But if you notice, we can't ask all these 4 questions about everything. Think about a river. Okay, what idea came first? Well, no idea came first. The river was just there. Nobody was thinking about it. So there's no idea question about rivers. Why is the river there? Well, there's no why. There's no why somebody had that river. Unless it's a canal, unless it's something built. But most of the time, there's no why question about rivers. But I can ask what a river is made out of. And I can ask, how did that material, the water, become a river? And there's actually a process to it. Snow melts, it turns into water, it flows down mountains and out into the ocean. That's a process. And so I bet if I was talking about rivers, what causes a river, I'm going to be concentrating on 2 and 3 because I can't ask questions 1 or 4. I can't ask what idea, and I can't ask why. It doesn't make sense. So, once again, literally anything can be thought of as an effect. But one of the difficulties when we're going about cause and effect is that some things are concrete, meaning I can touch them, and I can look at them, and I can read them, but some things are abstract. So for instance, book is a concrete thing, but on the other hand, if I was to say the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, these are abstract things. Here are more examples. The success of Facebook. I can't see or touch or feel or read the success of Facebook. The government of the United States. I can give you people who are in the government. I can see them, and that's concrete. And I can talk about the Constitution. Well, that's concrete. But the government itself, that's an idea. That's abstract. I can't see, touch, or feel government. The popularity of the Beatles. I can hear the Beatles' music. I can see Paul McCartney. I can look at and feel a Beatles record. But the popularity of the Beatles is an abstract concept. I can think about it. It is a noun. It is an effect. But it's not something I can touch. Now, it's harder to talk about the causes of abstract things than concrete things. A big part of that is science education. If you guys are scientists and you absolutely love science, you are normally used to thinking about things you can touch and you can feel and you can observe. But abstract things, that doesn't work too well with science all the time. And so popularity of the Beatles, that's kind of an abstraction. I can't study popularity like I can study it under a microscope or with a telescope or something like that. So, when we're talking about causes and effect about abstract things, here's the trouble we run into. Let's talk about what caused the house again. Well, I got the builder's plans, I got the wood, nails, and pipes, and I got a lot of people working around the clock, and someone wanted a place to live. Really easy. That's because a house is concrete. Now, let's talk about something abstract. What caused the success of Facebook? I'm not talking about Facebook, I'm talking about the success of Facebook. Okay, well, what idea came first? Well, Mark Zuckerberg's little innovations. What is the success of Facebook made out of? Well, it's not made out of anything. I can't touch, I can't see, I can't feel the success of Facebook. That question makes no sense. How did Facebook become a success? What caused the success of Facebook? How did it get there? Well, college students, advertisements, good interface, games, events, marketing. That's all brainstorming. I could pick any one of these and talk about them as one thing. Why did Facebook become a success? Why do we want the success of Facebook? Well, because Mark Zuckerberg wanted to be rich. That's a good why question, don't you think? So, abstract things, you're never going to ask question 2. You can't ask what is an abstract thing made out of. Well, because it's abstract. I mean, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. Only things you can touch, see, or feel are made out of something concrete. So, just in summary, not all cause questions will work with all topics. So, you can kind of think of examples. My house, I can ask all kinds of questions about that. Rivers, that's another topic, but I can't ask what idea came first, and I can't ask why a river exists. Also abstract things like the popularity of the Beatles or the government of the United States. I usually can't ask question number 2. What is it made out of? That doesn't make sense. But remember, if you're asking about causes, you can ask about what, how, and why. And as you can see, with causes, we're concentrating a lot on the how question. But that's another example for later. Keywords. When you're talking about cause keywords, there are specific examples. Factor, because, cause, formed, made, changed, reason, if this then that. These are all examples of cause keywords. So I can say one factor in Facebook's success is its great interface. Another factor is the video games it has. A third factor is Mark Zuckerberg's great ideas. Those are examples of factors and how I would use those when I'm talking about causes. Effects are the opposite of causes. Result, in effect, consequently, followed by, resulted in. The Beatles was one of the first groups to write all of their own music. As a result, they became a very, very popular music group. Wrinkle in Time was resisted by many people when it first came out. Consequently, it was actually banned in several schools. Now, when we get to critical thinking, we're going to be talking a lot about cause and effect. You might want to watch this lesson again just to get a feel for it. But for now, here's a nice little brain teaser. I got some cause and effect sentences here, and I want you to tell me why one of these groups of sentences is correct, and one of them is just totally wrong. First, if the teacher drinks coffee, the teacher will feel awake. Cause, effect. The teacher drank coffee. Therefore, the teacher feels awake. This one is correct. That makes sense. I like that one. If the teacher drinks coffee, cause, the teacher will feel awake. Effect. The teacher feels awake. Therefore, the teacher must have drank coffee. Incorrect. Wrong. Not right. I'm not going to tell you why this one is correct and this one is incorrect. I want you to think very, very hard and tell me why this one is incorrect. Do not use Google. Do not use Wikipedia. It will not help you. think for yourself and see if you can figure out why this one is correct, right up here, and this one is incorrect. For your reading, go ahead and finish both Wrinkle in Time and Brave New World. And also, there's an article on our website about the formation of the solar system. I'd like you to go through there and find as many cause and effect keywords and as many process keywords as you can. More specifically, when you're looking for the cause and effect, you can highlight the entire phrase or the entire sentence if you think an entire sentence is a cause, describing a cause, and another one is effect. Finally, remember that a process is often just a set of instructions on how to do something. So, now it's time for you to think about something that you know how to do or that you think you could learn how to do, and write a 400-word process explaining it. You can write a process about how to change oil. You can write a process about baking a cake. You can write a process about learning to play an instrument, or learning to play a sport, or drawing a beautiful picture. Or, if you don't like those, I want you to think of any process that you know how to do and that you want to explain to somebody else. Go ahead and use process keywords when you're describing it, though, and it must be 400 words. So, that's it for cause and effect. Look forward to the next lesson. Keep using educator.com.